Good day, teachers. I am your discussant for today's video presentation. By the way, I am Christina Cassandra T. Araza, and I will discuss one of the components of language, which is pragmatics. What comes into your mind when you hear pragmatics? And what is the difference between semantics and pragmatics? What are those theories of pragmatics, and how can we use pragmatics in language? So, in the next episode, I will tackle all of these questions. So, let's start up. Here are the different definitions of pragmatics that I gathered from various references. Pragmatics, it is the study of how the context affects meaning in language used, including the effects of social, cultural, and situational factors in communication. Pragmatics also deals with the role of context in the creation of meanings. It is also the study of how the language is used in real communication. Pragmatics considers utterances which is uttered by speakers in authentic communication. The term pragmatics was first coined in the 1930s by the philosopher Sir Morris, and he developed it as a subfield of linguistics in the 1970s. Pragmatic is needed if we want a fuller, deeper, and generally more reasonable account of human language behavior. The difference between semantics and pragmatics. When we say semantics, it attempts to relate the meanings to logic and truth and deals with meaning as a matter primarily of sense of relation within the language. And by pragmatics, it attempts to relate meanings to the context of utterance. When we say utterance, it views as a language as an action that is performed by the speakers. Pragmatics, it is the study of the meanings of the words, phrases, and whole sentences. But unlike semantics, which deals with the objective meanings of words that can be found in dictionaries, pragmatics is more concerned with the meanings that words convey when they are used, or with intended speaker meaning as it sometimes referred to. Semantics is concerned with the word and sentences meaning, and pragmatics entails utterance meaning. An utterance can be defined as a word or sentences which is uttered by the speaker. Pragmatics attempts to analyze how it happens that often more is communicated than said. The historical background of pragmatics, from ancient Greece to Rome to being practical. It is in language philosophy that linguistic pragmatics possesses its foundation, and it emerged as a result of ideas regarding the function and use of language by philosophers such as Wittgenstein, Austin, Searle, and Grice. The different theories of pragmatics. In speech act theory, we often think that the rule of language is to explain, inform, describe, and say about the word. But language is also used to do things, such as promise, to beat, to request, to threaten, to warn, and apologize, swear, and etc. Austin distinguished three components of speech act: the locutionary, illocutionary, and perlocutionary act. So let's discuss the first component of the speech act. The first is the locutionary act. It is the speaker's utterance or the performance of the utterance or the act of saying. It includes the semantics and syntactics aspect. For example, the speaker may say, "It is raining outside." That is the literal meaning. The speaker must produce the words to deliver the intended meaning of the message. It is also a locutionary act because we produce an utterance. And the second act is an illocutionary act. It is the speaker's intention or the real intended meaning or the act of doing. For example, the speaker may say again, "It is raining outside." The utterance would mean the speaker wishes or wants the hearer to use an umbrella, or if he or she goes out, or the speaker wants you to not to go out because it is still raining. Remember, an illocutionary act is an act accomplished in speaking and defined within a system of social convention. It includes promising, stating, apologizing, threatening, ordering, predicting, and requesting. And the last speech act component is the perlocutionary act. By this time, the main hearer reaction to its actual effect or the act of achieving. For example, again, the speaker may say, "It is raining outside." So what is the perlocutionary act? The hearer may use the umbrella, when he or she goes out, or the hearer may stay while waiting for the rain to subside. Again, a prelocutionary act is an action or state in mind brought about by or as a consequences of saying something. It also the effect or the result of the utterance on the hearer, depending on specific circumstances. It includes persuading, embarrassing, intimidating, irritating, or inspiring the hearer. Locutionary act is what we want to say. An illocutionary act is what we mean and when we say it, while in the prelocutionary act is what we want to accomplish by saying it. We are enjoined to make sure that what we say in conversation furthers the purpose of this conversation. The rules of conversation. A set of convention governing language use that preserve its integrity by requiring us, among other things, to be honest in its use, to have evidence of what we say, and to make what we say relevant to the speech context. Conventional implicator. The concept of conversational implicator is one of the most prominent ideas in pragmatics. An implicator is something meant, implied, or suggested, distinct from what is said. Herbert Paul Grice is famous for Grice's theory of conversational implicator in the linguistic field. The cooperative principle or the concept of conversational implicator is the key to the study of pragmatics. Grice stresses that the cooperative principle is a tool to guarantee the communicative process. In shortly, how people try to make conversations work. The cooperative principle is developed into four maxims. We have the maxim of quality, maxim of quantity, maxim of manner, and maxim of relevance. Before we go to the maxim of conversation, I have here an example of following conversation. So imagine you overhear the following conversation. So the speaker A asks the question, are John and Mary back together? So the B responds, I saw a red Porsche parked outside at 1128 Green Street last night, and it was still there this morning. In the exchange above, we might assume that the speaker's B's response is providing A with the information requested. We can make the connection between the question and the answer by relying on a presupposition. So the B presupposes that the speaker A also knows the following. John has a red Porsche and Mary lives at 1128 Green Street. To help us to understand how contexts work in deciphering meaning in a given situation, we can look to Grice's cooperative principle, which explains how people act in conversation. Making your conversational contribution is required at the stage at which it occurs and by the accepted purposes or direction of the slot, exchange in which you are engaged. Grice is not telling us what to do, but rather explaining how we behave in communicative situation and how we assume other people behave. The first maxim is the maxim of quantity. So the rule here is you make your contribution as informative as required. For example, the speaker A asked the question, how did Mary and John do on their job? Then the speaker B reply is Mary did fine, and the B flouts the maxim of quantity as no information is provided about John. Thus, the speaker A will assume that John did not do well and that speaker B does not want to provide this blessing information. And the second maxim is the maxim of quality, and the rule here is do not say what you believe is false, and do not say that which you have lacked adequate evidence. For example, in a scenario in which your sister tells you that Kate told her that John had a car accident, would you inform someone about it using the statement in speaker A or the speaker B? So the speaker A says John had a car accident, and speaker B says I heard that John had an accident. So, but the maxim of quality, you would prefer to use the speaker B because you would have not enough evidence to assert speaker A. In maxim of relevance, the number one rule here is be relevant. For example, the speaker may ask the question, how's your work coming along? So the speaker B answer the question, it's sunny outside. So here, B is floating maximum of relevance given that the speaker B responds with an utterance which is clearly irrelevant and can assume that work is not coming along. The last maxim is the maxim of manner. The rules here are: be perspicuous, avoid obscurity of expression, avoid ambiguity, and be brief and be orderly. For example, where are you going? I am going to the market. Another example, where is my box of chocolates? The speaker B may respond, it is in your room. So here in the maxim of manner, you should be telling the truth. So what is the context? Context is the discourse that surrounds a language unit and helps to determine its interpretation. We have here the subpart of the context. Number one is the physical context, where the conversation takes place and what objects are present, what actions are taking place. The second one is the epistemic context, the background knowledge by speakers and hearers. The third one is the linguistic context, the utterances previous to the utterance. And the last one is the social context. It is the social relationships and setting of speaking and hearers. Components of pragmatics. Pragmatics has three components: the pharmalinguistic, the socio-pragmatics, and psycholinguistic. So pragmalinguistic, the integration of grammar with pragmatics, has created an area of study entitled pragmalinguistic. Pragmalinguistic provides a practical explanation of grammar and tries to find the most appreciated and practical structure for utterances in a language for teaching purposes. The second one is the socio-pragmatics. It can be defined as the sociological interface of pragmatics. It indicates the social perception that underlines the participants' interpretation and performance of communicative action. Social pragmatics is related to the appropriate social behavior, and learners must be made aware of the outcome of making pragmatic choices. The last component is the psychopragmatics. Psychopragmatics deals with how children and non-native learners learn and acquire a foreign language. It also presents theories, approach, and principles to the language teaching area. It investigates how to design and organize a lesson plan. It can be stated that it makes a significant contribution to the methodology.
Don't hesitate to ask any questions, and thank you for listening, and God bless.